evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our fourth episode of the Social Hour with myself, Jessica Hanson, and my co hosts, Abiola and Jacquelyn Williams. We are really excited tonight to share with you about our topic that is teaching and advocating for exceptional learners. So, we have a bunch of amazing panelists, educators, guardians, parents. So thank y'all. Welcome. How's everyone doing tonight? Good, good.
Doing
Love
great. Thank you for asking.
All is well.
it. Thank you. Thanks so much for coming on tonight. I'm excited to hear from y'all. So we are just going to jump right in. Every person, I'm just going to ask you to do 2 minutes, right, for this first question. So we are going to get started. All right. So first and foremost, I'm going to ask, what is your role? And so here we go with the first one. So, what is your actual role, passion related to advocating for exceptional learners or special learners with special needs? So, I'm going to go to Jacquelyn first. 2 minutes on the clock. Jacquelyn, what is your role or passion with advocating for special learners?
Right now, I'm a parapro, and I mostly work in math, but sometimes they need me in English and history or science, so I work with students in that. And the most thing I really like math because I think math is an easier subject when you are very detailed with how to deal with numbers. I know with history, some of the things that I work with the children is dates. Mm-hmm. English is getting sentence formation, making sure to start with a capital letter, end with a period. Mm-hmm. Science, they are learning about the planets, mm-hmm. and which one is first, second, or third, or closest to the sun, things like that. But I enjoy it all, and really, where I'm needed, I go, mm-hmm. and everything, it works out well.
All right. Well, thank you so much. All right. So we are going to go to one of the guardians tonight. Mr. Hamer, can you let us know what your passion and involvement is with working with exceptional learners?
Okay, how's everybody doing? My passion is it started way when I was young. I had the privilege of working with the John F. Kennedy Center for Exceptional Learners, and ever since then, I just had a passion to make sure that what I'm saying the children who are deemed as exceptional learners are treated as children and not special causes. Growing up, I had a passion to make sure that everybody was treated with that's something that I was raised on, and so happened that my second born son, he's an exceptional learner, so that became more of a passion because I feel like that I didn't want my child to be treated as the school system treated other children, separated them from general ed, and it was just a mess. So when my child was born and we found out about him being an exceptional learner, we just made it our mission to make sure that what I'm saying, he is treated just like everyone else, because although he's a learner and he's our child, will be a black male. So we he with everything needed.
Well, thank you so much for that detailed response. So next we're going to go.
I got more time.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead. You can continue. We're just keeping everybody 2 minutes. Y'all are going to have tons more questions.
No. I'm
All right. So Abiola,
I'm good. Just
your role?
Just for other parents.
Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no. Just making sure that other parents have the same, know about the same resources and availability as me and my wife. So that was essentially it.
I love that. Making sure, right, that all students are represented the same, all exceptional learners. Thank you. Sorry for cutting you right there at the end. Okay, Abiola, what has been your role, passion related to exceptional learners?
I'm currently a special education coordinator slash skills teacher. So for me, my degree says education, but my specialty is in special education. So I literally have a master's in special education. So that's where, for me, I live it, I breathe it, everything about special education. That's what I am. So I love working with special education students or exceptional ed students because they're detailed, they're very loving kids. I can't explain it, but it's one of those things you gotta know, you gotta love it. It's not something you can do because it can become frustrating for some people, but for me, I just live it, breathe it, wake up thinking about it. um Mr. Hamer can, eventually speak about it, like everything about SPED. I don't know how to. I'm giddy because I can't explain it because I live it. Like everything about it. It's one of the most rewarding jobs to me, for me to wake up every morning and go and see what I started with, or where the children are. But I say my children, where they are, and where they were yesterday, and then today it's something totally different. It's like, oh my God, they're writing their name. Oh my God, they're at it. Oh my God, they're like, the excitement is too much for me. Like, I literally, it's too much. Yeah, but I live it, breathe it, everything about it. Looking to start my own school just for SPED kids. That's eventually what I want to do. Just a SPED only school.
Well, I was going to say, you said looking to, but you literally already have your own tutoring business and you are advocating already for exceptional learners. So let us know. Go ahead and put it out there. What is the name of your tutoring business right now?
Yes. With Rock Learning Center, but I just don't want to tutor kids,
Right.
exceptional ed kids. I want to literally have a school for special
Right. You want to
exceptional ed,
manifest
where they
that.
go from the morning. It's targeted towards their needs, and not they're pushed into general. I know they're supposed to be educated in the least restrictive environment, but for me, sometimes the least restricted environment is not the place some kids need to be. They need more specialized individual attention. So for me, that is something that is big, because some kids need life skills, and that's something I think that's lacking, but we can get into a little more of that later.
All right, thank you. All right, so the next guardian we're going to go to is Miss George. So tell us, what is your role and passion related to exceptional learning, please?
Yeah, good evening. I'm Karen Cole
Hi.
George. I am a parent of two exceptional learners, and my passion really is just being an advocate for equitable education for exceptional learners in an environment that actually individualizes their education plan, which is wonderful. When we look at the root of an IEP, they're supposed to be individualized, which speaks to the fact that every exceptional learner is different and has different needs. And so my role right now, dealing with my children as well as other exceptional learners, is just to be an advocate for that individualized curriculum that they need to be successful, as well as equitable access to what is available, and seeking opportunities for improvement in where we can actually support them, as Ms. Williams suggested, with life skills and other social development that they may need to be successful in life going forward. And again, underscoring Mr. Hamer to just share and shout from the highest mountain so that parents are able to navigate the system and advocate for their children, because most often, myself included, we don't know how to navigate the system. We don't know what's available, and we don't know how to advocate to make sure that these safeguards are in place. So, through my own personal experiences and just advocating for others, I want to get the word out there and do all that I can to ensure their success and their future.
Thank you for saying that. And specifically, Ms. Cole George, about if you had some things that you might not have known to advocate for your own students, then definitely now that you have all this knowledge and educators have this knowledge, to please share that with the world, right? To let everyone have hopefully these same equitable things that maybe schools, maybe administrators, have not been forthcoming with. So we definitely want to give people advocacy, consulting tips, all of that, especially in an equitable way. All right, we have Miss First Lady Tammy in the building. How are you tonight?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Good. So same question for you. What has been your role or passion related to exceptional learners in education?
Well, I am a special ed teacher at a middle school. I have a master's degree in education and a second master's degree in special education. I've wanted to be a teacher since I was 5 years old. So for me, this is anything and everything I've always wanted to do, which is one of the things, like I've had students ask me if I weren't teaching, what would I be doing? And my response is always, I wouldn't be doing anything else. So for me, I love teaching so much that the getting paid is like a bonus because I have that much passion for it. I've worked as an aide in a deaf and hard of hearing classroom, so I'm fluent in sign language. So that's an added thing for me. But I mean, for me, and as crazy as it sounds, teaching is my self-care. So when I'm at work, I'm always in a positive space. I'm always in a good mood. And it's this is gonna sound crazy, but I've never had a bad day. Like being around my students puts me in a better space. And there's been some things that I've gone through, and being at work actually helped me to be in a better space. So I truly believe that everything happens for a reason, and I feel like where I am is where I've always been meant to be. And I used to not think about special education. I used to want to do general ed, but then once I worked in a special education class, that was all I wanted to do. So I couldn't see myself doing anything else. I think special education students, a lot of times they want to be heard. They want to be taught in a way that works for them, and not everybody has the patience and the passion and the desire to reach the needs that they have. And so for me, I like to take the time I can to make sure that they understand and that can be successful. And I've told, because I have students, because I teach math, which is what I hated before I started teaching it. But I teach math, and a lot of my students struggle in math. So I talk to them and I tell them that my job is to make you feel better about math than when you leave than when you start it. So, and I have students that they have so much low confidence about math when they start that when they leave, they feel so much better about it. And they tell me that I've helped them to learn to love math. So that's just one of the things I love. I mean, I could go on and on and on. It would be
that's fine. I never want to cut anyone off. We're definitely I want to hear from everybody though. So Mrs. M3, what has been your passion related to teaching exceptional learners?
So I am a health science teacher, high school health science teacher in general populations, which means that I have students that have IEPs, I have students that have 504s, and my job is to teach to every level of students so that they understand and get the standards. And man, there's so much history dating back to probably when I was in my 20s, helping special needs kids, especially for my church. That was the first ever exposure to teaching that I got. I was a health educator in the clinic-based setting for 7 years, same job, same position. And I got burnt out, and I'm like, I want to be able to help generations that are not yet involved with the sickness, right? Because, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And around 2008, I decided, you know what, I want to teach. And that was just based on, going to a middle school camp, Bible-based middle school camp, to help out with the kids there. And I'm like, why have I been running from this? My whole family, should I say, my cousins, my mom, my aunt, my grandma, they were all teachers. And so that was like, okay, I could do that, but what do I want to do? So I went into medical fields, and then, but then it's my passion. Like, I really liked it. And so I stayed there, went back to school, got my master's in education, got my single subject in health science, which was, my undergrad. And now I teach health science, high school health science. Our students, they have a unique passion. And at the same time, just being a health educator, especially working with students that have special needs, our classroom happens to be right across the hall from a special day class, and they don't even get health education at all. And one thing that the parents are advocating in our community, when we go to our district meetings, and then outside of the district in the county meetings and the statewide meetings, they're saying, why don't we assume ability, right? Why are the special needs kids that are in special day not also getting the education, for example, for consent, where they are the population that get the most abused, like sexually abused, without a voice. And so that's something that's being worked on countywide in the county that I live in and work in. And it's the tip of the iceberg, but it's something that doesn't always stay on our minds. My 504 students, my IEP students, I try to incorporate into my day things that help all of my students learn, so it doesn't look odd or here's something special for you to do while the other class does this. It's more like, hey, let's all get involved and do your best, see what you can do with this. I use things like total physical response, where they get to remember, for example, we're learning mandible, right? Like the jaw, the only bone in your head that moves to eat, to chew. I tell them, touch it and say it, like mandible, right? And then what does it do, right? And everybody does it. It's not like a weird thing, like only you do it. Everyone does it. Things like we do exam jam on our campus. And with exam jam, that's like a week before finals. We have the tutors, and they're not all A+ students. These are students, maybe they were struggling and they understand it. Now they can help other students that are, struggling with the same subject. And teachers open our doors, whether it's a lunchtime, an after school situation. We also on our campus have what's called Access, which is 80 minutes of involvement with students who are struggling in the subject. Whatever subject it is, they're allowed, a little pass. The teacher writes a pass so that if their homeroom, for example, isn't math, they can go to the math teacher at that time. It's a 40 minutes on Wednesday, 40 minutes on Thursday, and they get to go to that. We call it Access. They get the private pass. We're considering to change it a little bit and make it 25 minutes per class as an extension of the class, so that we have the same students that need help that don't have to move around necessarily. But then, we're still working on that. What we have right now is the 40 minutes, 80 minutes per week, 40 minutes Wednesdays, 40 minutes Thursdays. There's a lot that we do. We have an actual MTSS, which is like the 1, 2, 3 tiers of education. And so it helps with intervention for kids that are struggling, even if they don't have a 504, even if they don't have an IEP, because we know that some parents don't always want to test their kid to label them. So we try to catch everyone.
We're going to talk about that towards one of the last questions. I did not want to interrupt you because you were telling a lot of good things about your area. We have myself and then Queen as well. So Queen, can you tell us what your passion is related to working with exceptional learners? And we're going to put 2 minutes on the clock, and then I'm going to wrap us up for this part. Thank y'all so much so far.
Well, my experience is I'm a social worker, so I call myself a life educator. So it's always been a passion of mine. I mean, long story short, I was home in New York one time, and every day on the news, there was somebody abusing, killing, or doing something to that kid. And so I knew right away what I wanted to do. Been in the field over 10 years. I have what I call the circle of life experience. I've worked with drug addicted adults, kids. I work with foster care youth. I've worked with autistic kids one-on-one. I work with in-home support services. I work with behavioral health court. I work with what do you call it? I forgot. Oh, court system, legal guardianship.
Mm-hmm.
So my passion has led me to currently I'm working on starting my own nonprofit. Yeah, so I love the ages 9 to 21. Even though 9-year-olds, you wouldn't think they've been through a lot, they've been very traumatized, but they still have a level of trust that you can get to if you have rapport, if you have the right heart. So it's always been my passion to do that. So that's where I'm at. And
Oh, sorry, Adam.
oh, I thought my time was up. I see the clock.
No, you still had 30 seconds. You were
Okay.
just being very efficient.
I'm gonna use my time, girl. No, but yeah, so I think it's very important. And the one thing I wanted to start the nonprofit with is because with kids or families in the system or whatever, the whole point is building rapport. And a lot of times people don't want to work for an organization because they don't feel taken care of. So I really want to start like a Google or Facebook of nonprofits where we take care of the workers just as much as we take care of clients, to build rapport and to have that connection with them. And that's my passion.
Thank you. That is amazing. So my personal experience, I actually taught community college for 4 years since 2011. And so that was always what I wanted to do. That was my passion. Right from high school, everything had seen that there was a definite difference of how students were treated if they had exceptional needs. I literally remember it's so horrible in Alabama. The high school I went to, they literally had the students underground, you could say. It's like where the pool area used to be, and that was their classroom. There was only one student that I remember that I would have graduated with that had, she was functional enough, but any of them can do things. People just underestimate them. So I just didn't know that was like a passion spot for me yet. I just thought I'm doing this with college. So I did that for 4 years. Then I came here to Tennessee to do PhD and wound up switching to do an EDS. And so I did culture, cognition, and the learning process and wound up getting certified as an interventionist. So I taught that in a variety of ways with a program called Re 180, pulling students out of classes just to give them extra help. Again, those students were bright, brilliant. They just needed extra. And it's nothing against them, right? They just needed extra. And I feel like that is where the problems have lain in education, is that people try to make them feel different, make them feel less than, and they just oftentimes need extra attention, love. So I did that for 5 years, teaching in various charter schools in Nashville, where I met these lovely co-hosts of mine, Abiola and Jacquelyn. And now I am back teaching at a HBCU for the last 2 years. But I will say a lot of people don't know, and Mrs. M3 and I talked about this in Abiola, people get services in college, and they should, and they don't know. And if you are not told that in your transition from middle school to high school, from high school to college, then you can miss out on so much, either monies for the parents, accommodations you are given at college, but they don't transfer from high school to college. You have to advocate for yourself. If you don't know, that's impossible. So, okay, our next piece, I'm going to try to stick with my time limit as well. We are going to our next question. This one is for the parents and guardians. So we have a variety, right? We have some co-hosts who are also parents of special learners, exceptional learners. So number 2 says, what has been your experience with your exceptional learner since birth or adoption at home? So this question I'm going to first put towards Mr. Hamer. And for this one, I'm going to give you 3 minutes. I don't want to cut you off about your specifics with your special learner. Oh, I think you're muted. Can y'all hear him?
No.
Oh, let me see if I can get him unmuted. There. Is it working now?
There we go.
There we go. Let me restart your timer because
Yeah,
you
it's
deserve
working
all
now.
your 3 minutes. Okay, go ahead.
Since my son has been born, it's been like it's it, it it's been enjoyable, very, very enjoyable, because there are no 2 days that are the same. Um, he is absolutely like a, a big ball of energy. He's a ton of fun. Um, and when we go out in public, it often, it baffles me how, other people who are not knowing, um, they tend to give him a look, and he knows how that he knows how that looks like, and he will be the first to either question what they're looking at or be the one that breaks the ice. And like, his personality and his character has been everything. And like I said, when he was born, we found out about his diagnosis. Me and my wife, the first thing we did was we wanted to be proactive in making sure that he has everything he needs to live and lead an independent life. And either it be education or either it be occupational skills, that has been number one. And again, like I said, I made it a point to where I treat him no differently than I treat my other kids or anybody else's kids. He's held to the same accountability and responsibility because, like I said, I'm a big man, and 9 times out of 10, he's going to be a big man too. When we walk out in the world, it's not, it's not going to be easy for him. And I just love the fact that, he knows that I'm on camera right now, so he's dying to get on. And, he wanted to be an active YouTuber. He's
You can
speaking loud
definitely
enough so you
wave
can
and
hear him
say
right
hi.
now.
That's your
Uh,
choice.
but one of the most empowering experiences I had was working along with his IEP, and just that feeling to know that you are in control of what your child learns and things like that. I mean, that had to have been the most empowering feeling of my life. Because as and some of you teachers also know that, sometimes they try to make education curriculum one size fits all. And unfortunately for kids who are special learners, it can't be like that. So having a parent and being a parent and knowing that you can change that, and you can you know, alter the way he learns according to what he needs, that is absolutely powerful. And I just want to spread it to other parents. I'm it's been a
Oh, I think his
it says
sound cut
time's
off.
up.
Oh,
So
sorry.
I'm
No,
gonna,
you're fine. You're fine. I was not going to just cut you, but
okay.
I thought your sound messed up. But yes, I love that you're
No.
advocating. I love first that you mentioned his personality, advocating for himself. That speaks amazingly to how you've raised him with confidence to let him know, right, that he can do anything other people can do, and you're advocating for his future, not just his time as a child in your home, in your household. So we are going to go now to Miss Cole George. What has been your experience with your specific exceptional learner?
Yes, good evening again. Wow. So as I said, I have two. My youngest, because they're actually twins. So my youngest has cerebral palsy. So he is the one who we actually spend a good deal of time with in the home, and where the most noticeable changes has taken place, because when the twins were born, they were born early, but they were both born healthy. And he became critically ill unexpectedly, unknowingly, 10 days post delivery. And then we ended up with a cerebral palsy diagnosis later on. So when they came home, initially our house was like a little mini hospital, which worked well because I'm also a clinician. But being a clinician and being a parent are two different things altogether entirely, especially when you have 3 children at home, because we have an oldest as well. But it was a great experience because we had great support. Initially, we had nurses for newborn, we had TEIS come in, and we had a great support system. He had a great medical team. They would come out and work with him in the home. Fast forward to our elementary years, I would say the blessing was probably COVID, the COVID shutdown, because it afforded me an opportunity, even though I'd always been very hands-on with my children, but to actually experience the educational process with them and what actually went into specifically catering his education. And that is when we actually became recipients of WizRock tutoring. And that was a phenomenal experience because with Miss Williams working directly with him, I was learning as well. And so what I learned, what my children learned, and what kind of assisted us through that and definitely is resonant in our home is that we all learn differently. Doesn't matter what our abilities are, we can learn the same things. It's just different how we learn them. It's taught us all to be patient and to just accept each other for who we are. Um, like Mr. Hamer's son, we always get the look because my son ambulates with a walker. And so children specifically will always ask him questions about his walker. And so now that became an area for us to start to deal with self-confidence and preparing him to be an advocate for himself. So almost scripting responses as he understood people weren't really trying to be cruel, especially kids. They were just curious. And so it really helped to develop us, and that continues to this day.
Well, thank you so much again for your experience and for sharing that with us so gracefully. Just both of you, the testimony of what you're doing with your children, how you're making them feel so confident, so comfortable. And then I love what you just said, Miss Cole George, about all of us continuing to learn, all of us acknowledging we are all still endlessly learning through the rest of our lives, right? It doesn't just end once you get out of school. Okay, so now we are going to go to our lovely co-host, Abiola. Abiola, what has been your experience with your exceptional learner from birth at home?
For me, what I've learned over this journey is that people in general have to realize that not every disability is visual. Because my son, his is a processing deficit delay, but if you look at him, he's in college, right? So a lot of people, a lot of times when they hear disability, they're looking for something visual. It don't, and that's what I think we have to get away from that idea that it has to be visual when it doesn't. So for me, that's the main reason I got into special education, because I noticed actually in high school that he was doing phenomenal with his grades, and I would notice he'll come home like, when he got into the ninth or 10th grade, and he would say, well, they won't let me finish my test. And I was like, what do you mean they won't let you finish your test? And I was like, and as a mom, I was like, the teachers didn't realize that I was specialized in special education. So when I roll up at the school, I was like, I want to know like what's going on, because
Love it.
they're like,
Already know.
yeah, nothing is wrong with him. He's just looking off to the side, and he's just doing all these extra stuff. And I'm like, so you guys just take the test from him, and he's not quite finished? And she was like, yes, because the time is up. Okay, so I was like, so can we get him tested? And she was like, well, I don't think anything is wrong with him, and we're not going to test him. So I was like, okay, since you're not going to test him, I'm going to call the right people. And I just started throwing some names out there because I write IEPs. I know what a 504 plan consists of. I know what an actual IEP consists of. You know, you have to know the difference. One is, civil rights guided. One is, whatever the other IEP is guided by. So she started talking. She's like, okay, can we get this meeting set up for like in a couple of days? Because I don't think we need to bring in these people into this conversation. So when he got tested, he had the necessary things needed in place. So I'm laughing at it now because it was aggravating, and I don't know, like Miss Georgia and Mr. Hamer can probably speak on this. It's aggravating when you notice something and you're telling people you notice something, and they're trying to convince you that nothing is wrong, and it just aggravates my nerves. So finally, we got him tested. He was he had a 504 plan. He academically he was sound. My time is up. Academically he was fine, but he just needed that extra support. So one thing I want to throw out there for parents to understand: know which one your child needs. A child might need a 504 plan. They might need an IEP. A 504 plan allows that child to still stay in the classroom, get everything they need, but with that support. Whereas a child with an IEP is going to be pulled out and going to get those academic services in a different setting. And I think that's where the gap is for a lot of parents. They automatically hear, oh, I need an IEP for my child. Okay, you need an IEP. Why? Does the child really need to be removed from the class, or the child just needs that extra support, which it can have within the classroom by the teacher? So that's something we need to think about as well.
We're definitely going to go way more in depth with that in a little bit, but I already know that you are going to be super passionate about this, so I love it. Okay, so the next question is again for parents and guardians, and I'm doing it like this very intentionally because to me, the student, the learner, is the most important part of this, right? We can say all the strategies in the world, all the interventions, all the IEPs, all the 504s, all the teachers' best laid plans, all maybe the parents' best laid plans, but it's all about and should be all about the learner. And so I'm asking the parents or the guardians intentionally first because they should know their rights. If they don't, hopefully you're learning about this today. If you're listening, if you're tuning in with us, or you can come back for the replay. All right. So the next question, number 3, says for parents and guardians, once your exceptional learner became eligible to either attend daycare or school, what has been your personal experience, good or bad? We don't have to name names of schools, but with the education system supporting or not supporting your learner. So we're going to go to Miss Cole George first for this.
I was really hoping Mr. Hamer was going to take the lead on that.
Got a censor or
All right. Well, I took the student course, so we're going to go ahead and start with something good. My children's preschool years were phenomenal. Without naming names, they went to phenomenal preschools, albeit private and quite costly. But the support there could not be overstated. We had aquatics, we had PT, OT, ST. I mean, whatever you needed, you had it. You were supported, and it was fantastic. Things got very interesting and kind of went a little awry once we hit the elementary school level. We first looked at the charter school system, and this is something that, again, through advocating now and my own experiences and knowledge, I now know that I need to let my children tell me what their limits are, not for me to say this is too much. So, not knowing, I sent my child to their zone school where he regressed significantly. He went in spelling his name, he came out not knowing it. He went in pretty much, toileting was a challenge, and we were making great strides on that, to no support in that area. He's on a changing table as though he's an infant, not getting any support at all. So we did that. I now refer to that as his gap year because we literally got nothing at all out of that 1 year of his education. So then we went ahead and we decided to try the charter system. His sister had gone through the charter system. Awesome experience for her. His twin brother was in the charter system, doing pretty well up until we realized that, again, as Ms. Williams said, not every disability is physical. It's not apparent. My older son's disability is not apparent. It is a cognitive processing disability. So that's just now kind of rearing its head over this last maybe 1 to 2 years. So that has become a challenge with support. And again, I think maybe because it's just not apparent. And then for my child, of course, that needs quite a bit of support, I'm noticing you're only as good as the SPED providers in the system where your child is. So the recent experiences I've been having here, really, they've been very frustrating and just not the expectation of how we deal with children that are exceptional learners, children that have disabilities, cognitive, physical, require support. And it's almost as though you're begging for services that not only are they entitled to, but any institution of education, they should strive to be inclusive. And that is the piece that we are seeing that is almost non-existent. And the challenge going forward is, what are our options as a state, as a county? I'm looking, there's not many options available for these exceptional learners. So what do we do as a
And I love
state,
that you are
as a
like
county,
thinking about that,
as
advocating.
educators,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
as parents?
Sorry. I was
I'm
saying I
sorry, you
love
were
that you
breaking
are,
up. Did
no,
I go
no,
over
you're
my
fine.
time?
No, you're fine. I didn't want to cut you off, but I want to also
So,
say that I love that you're advocating for your child. You're thinking of continual steps to make it better, to push the special educational education and administrators, because oftentimes they might push back, as Abiola said earlier, or they might not know the laws well enough themselves. And so if you are unaware, if they are unaware, then the person, the human that is getting the detriment is the learner. But again, as you mentioned at the beginning, with your child's early education, you actually had resources, right? You were able to provide an exceptional education
absolutely.
with finances, just quite bluntly. And so I really hate that some parents they don't have that capability, they don't have the access, and if they don't have that, they don't have the education, they don't have the know-how to advocate for themselves, or to perhaps have confidence to stand up if the educators, the systems are not doing their job. It is just so unfortunate, because it is hurting the children. It is hurting the learner that will eventually become an adult, as Mr. Hamer said earlier, and have to advocate for themselves, to learn, to grow, because one day we will not be here to support them, right? And they're going to have to be independent, and they should. That should always be the goal, right? Eventually, for them to excel, for them to succeed, never to hold them back, pull them back, and say that they can't do this, they're not ready for this. Because as you said, your child was achieving. It was the school that failed them. When they went to a different school, then they regressed. It wasn't the child, it was what was in front of them, the opportunities or the lack thereof, or the lack of advocacy. So now we're going to go for the same
That's
thing for
exactly right.
Mr. Hamer. What was your exceptional learner when they were eligible, Mr. Hamer, to attend school? What was your specific experience, good or bad, with the education system supporting your child or not? All right, I'm putting 3 minutes up. Go ahead. Thank you.
First, I want to say that one of the scariest moments of my life. And I grew up in North Nashville, so I should tell you something. But one of my scariest moments of my life was when my oldest son was at school age and trying to figure out what we're going to do with him. And he got accepted into a real good school and began to thrive. And the education that he was receiving is far from my expectations. It was quality, excellent education. So, of course, when my baby boy came up, and with him being an exceptional learner, I didn't know I didn't know if that school would take him. Honestly, I didn't. But the principal assured me that not only would they take him, but he will receive the same education as my oldest son. And I can say that they have pretty much held up to everything that they had promised. Even when I decided I wanted to be the parent who changed the trajectory of how his child learned, because, like I said, when I was in school, pretty much our exceptional learners was downstairs and didn't really. Well, there's no really about it. They did not mingle or mix with general ed, and that just made me feel so bad.
That was mine as well.
But as he grew, so did his mind. And just looking at it from where he started to where he's at right now is absolutely mind blowing and beautiful. I could say this with the teachers that he had. I mean, one has a picture on every wall of his room, and the other one is his absolute heart. So I owe a debt of gratitude, because of the simple fact that when he walks into school, he's more than an exceptional learner. He's Caleb. I know I ain't supposed to say it, but what I'm saying, hey, it is what it is. He is, he's one of them. And it's every time I love it when he walks to school, it's like, hey, 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 hey. And he's like, all right, I got to go to school. I got to get in here. And like I said, this whole journey has been absolutely just a blessing. And I just want other parents to know that, hey, if you have an exceptional learner, it's not the end of the world. It's not, you don't have to go out and pretty much rack your brain about, the his future, or having questions about his development. It's out there. Only thing you have to do is educate yourself and know and speak to other parents, because this experience, like I said, it's been far from what I expected, and I am so glad.
Thank you so much. Okay, so the next thing is going to be very, very brief. I did not want to stop all those beautiful stories, so I'm going to kind of do a quick go around for people who are tuning in just now. Just to let you know, again, we are here tonight talking about these beautiful, exceptional learners, advocating for them as both parents, guardians, and educators. And also we have social workers here as well. So we love this. And so very briefly, I'm just going to sum up again, just where people are in the trajectory. And so what grade level or what capacity have been their experience. Some got into that a little earlier. And so first and foremost, we're going to spotlight Abiola. She is an instructor. She teaches elementary, but she is certified, has her master's in special education. And she also is running a tutoring amazing business, WizRock, but she's wanting to open her own school as well. So continuing to manifest those dreams and helping to advocate for those students. Then we have several parents that you were just hearing from this evening. We have Mr. Hamer. And what grade is your exceptional learner right now, Mr. Hamer, again?
He is in the fourth.
Okay, thank you. And then Miss Cole George, what grades did you say your twins, your exceptional learners, were in right now? She might not hear me. It's okay. Well,
I can speak on that. One is in the third and one is in the second.
thank you, Ms. Williams. So I know you have been involved instrumentally in their education. So thanks for speaking on her behalf. Then I know we have another special education certified twice. First Lady Tammy, you teach, you said middle school again?
Yeah, I teach 6th, 7th, 8th grade.
Okay. And you're in California, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then myself, I don't teach special needs anymore, but I teach college and I'm still advocating for my students at that level. Abiola, again, is also in Tennessee. Jacquelyn is a paraprofessional right now. Another Miss Williams, lovely. She's also in Tennessee. Then we have Miss M3. You're also in California. You teach high school, correct?
That is correct. High school health science, general ed, general
Okay.
pops.
Okay, but you have definitely advocated, helped lots of exceptional learners as well throughout your educational career. So thank you as well. And then, of course, we heard from Queen earlier. She is an amazing social worker and works with so many different levels of people with exceptional needs. So again, thank you. Shout out to everyone who is here tonight so far. Just wanted to kind of catch us up if you came in late on the live, to let you know what we're discussing tonight, who all is here advocating for our exceptional learners. And as Mr. Hamer mentioned earlier and Ms. Cole George, learning does not stop, right? Just in school. And if your child is experiencing learning that is not up to par with what you know they are capable of, not what the school is pushing them or not pushing them to, but right, continue advocating for yourself, for your child's exceptional learning needs, because they are exceptional. That's why I don't even like to say special education anymore, have these like negative connotations, because they are exceptional. They can achieve. It all depends on who they're in front of, what opportunities they are presented, because they will often meet the challenge, exactly like what Mr. Hamer said and all these other parents and educators who are speaking tonight. Now we're going to get into some nitty gritty. So let me put us back all together off the spotlights. So the next question is about and select educators. I want to hear from Tennessee and California coast. So first, we're going to go to Abiola in Tennessee. Again, at the elementary level, teaching special education, exceptional learners. What can you explain within 3 minutes? I know it's a lot, but I want you to go into 504s and IEPs, what you can educate the public on, the difference. So let me put your timer up before you get started. Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
The 504 plan, like I was stating earlier, is guided by the civil rights laws, whereas the IEP is guided under the federal laws. So that's the difference between the two. So that's what I said earlier. Parents have to determine which they think is better for their child when their child is being tested, so that they can make that decision as to whether they want a 504 or full blown IEP. Know that your child is going to be pulled out.
Chase, this is
Jace, I'm sorry.
no, it's fine. I love hearing a full
Anyway, yeah, just know that the 504 plan is that your child is going to be in the classroom with a little bit of support, so that they still get everything that is being taught. Whereas an IEP, as a skills teacher, develops that IEP according to that psychologist report. So whenever that psychologist tests that child, there are different cognitive tests that's being done. So they might have a deficiency in basic reading, math calculation, math problem solving. So I go in and break down those scores, and I literally make write an entire IEP around those scores. A 504 plan is not done that way. They might not even need, that much of a written up IEP. It just needs that extra support in the classroom where that teacher can add something to that IEP that allow that child. For instance, with my oldest, he was given something the day before so that he can review it and process it, because he had a 504. We're not doing that with a child with an IEP. I'm going in every day and teach that child 2 plus 2 is 4. And it may look different. And that's what I try to tell parents all the time. 2 plus 2, we know is 4. My son Jace might say 2 plus 2 is 4. Mr. Hamer and Miss Karen's son might say 2 plus 2, but I might need to give them a manipulative. I might put two manipulatives in this hand, two in this hand, but they're still getting to the same answer, but it just looks different. And that's what at this we have to understand. It looks different, but they get into the same. They get we need the same expectation from them, but it's just that they might be using the manipulative. So for me, knowing the difference, because a lot of times parents come up or they'll call me on the phone and be like, I need an IEP for my child. What do we need an IEP for? Can you give me some more backstory? Is there something you're noticing? Well, they can't read. Might be the passage too hard. They might just need a little more time. They might just need something developed. You know what I mean? So just think about this when you're doing it. Do they really need to be pulled out at that classroom, or they just might need a little bit of support in the classroom? And know the difference, because a lot of times parents don't know the resources as well. When a child have a full-blown IEP, I tell my parents all the time, collect your paperwork, take it where you need to take it to make sure you get the funding to help you support your child. Because you can take your paperwork down to the Social Security office, get your money for your child so you can take care of your child's need, so that everything is cohesive in the household. Because at least once the household is cohesive, it's going to transfer to the school life and everybody is happy.
Thank you so much. And again, she is sharing her expertise from here in Tennessee. Now we're going to hear from Miss First Lady Tammy. So for you, what do you feel is the significance, the specific differentiation between 504s and IEPs in your state of California and district?
It is a little bit similar in California. So in order to have you have to qualify for an IEP. So what happens is if you don't qualify for special education services, then you have the option of a 504 where you still can have accommodations that can help you in the classroom. You just don't have everything as intense as an IEP. With an IEP, you will have your annual meetings, you'll have your tries. You might be in specific special education classes. You might have where an aide may go in the classroom to work with you. But if you have a 504, you don't necessarily have all those types of things. You'll just have accommodations you can use in the classroom. So, for instance, an accommodation someone with a 504 might be able to have would be giving an extra time on an assignment or something like that, or maybe having, being able to use a calculator, something like that. Well, if you have an IEP, you might be, like I said, in a special education class. So for me, for instance, of the students I have in all of my classes, all of them have IEPs. I wouldn't have a student in my class that has a 504. Typically, if you have a 504, you can be in the general education classroom. You'll just have accommodations to go with that. But with an IEP, you might not be able to be in the general education class just yet. You may start in a special education class and then transfer into a general ed based on how you're doing. But typically, if you have a 504, you wouldn't need to be in a special education classroom because you don't need as much support as somebody who has an IEP. So, and I mean, you may have some parents that, they really want their child to have an IEP, but, sometimes an IEP is not necessary. Sometimes just having those accommodations may be exactly what that child needs to be successful. So, yeah. So I'd say that's the main difference is that, if you don't qualify for special education services, here's another option. So.
Exactly. And thank you both, ladies, and all the special educators who are here this evening with us, and all the parents who've had to go through these IEP meetings, or who've had to have these tough conversations with parents who might not know their rights, or with students who maybe the parents or other educators in the past have not been pushing them to their actual level. Because as both First Lady Tammy and Abiola said, the child might just need accommodations. And I love that both of you pinpointed, because some of you teachers who are watching, we're going to go ahead and put you on blast. You are not doing accommodations in your classrooms, and it is illegal. You are hurting the students that you supposedly should be in this career to help. If you are in education and you're doing it for the money, bye, because we don't get paid enough. And if you don't actually care about your students, if you don't actually care about making a difference and making them be the next generation, because they all can be, right? Don't discriminate against people who you think are not capable. Because anyone can achieve. They just have to be pushed. They have to be motivated, empowered. And I feel like all these educators and loving guardians here tonight are worried about that, empowering their student, empowering their child, to let them move forward and rule and lead this world, right? We are all not going to be here forever, but they have to be able to be empowered to lead. Okay. So again, to reiterate what both ladies said, the 504 is something a educator in the classroom can do. They can make changes, scaffolds, make it not easier, but just like Abiola and First Lady Tammy mentioned, right? Everyone learns differently. And so they might just need a hint, a word bank where other students just have a blank. They might need, I'm not a mathematician. I know some of y'all are amazing at that. But right, they might need hints about some sort of equations or something where another student would not get that, or a calculator when other students in certain grades are, supposed to be not using calculators yet. So it's more in the classroom where the teacher, the general education teacher, is giving them accommodations, hints, help to aid them to meet the same level the other students in the general education classrooms are. They should not be pulled out if they are in a 504 plan. You could possibly get an intervention, which would just be extra help in reading or math. But usually, as First Lady Tammy mentioned, you still would have to get like an approval of that, whatever district you're in the United States. But with the IEP, it is literally an individualized education plan. So it is so specific, right? And it's not dead. It doesn't just like, oh, we made this plan and hope for the best. No, it has goals, but they should be attainable goals. They should be like not 80 million goals, right? It has to be something that the child can reach towards, can achieve, and right, and then say, okay, now we're moving to the next goal. Like everyone else, they can achieve these goals. They can move forward. They can grow, and sometimes they come out literally better than some of their general education peers. It's so ridiculous to me that people act like they cannot achieve. And sometimes they are better at the end because they've had so much, extra, and people just the underdogs, right? They get like just not, people just don't have enough confidence in them. Okay, so go ahead.
So I was just gonna say real quick. So one of the things I have noticed is that with the goals, a lot of times there are some parents that don't understand the way the goal is written. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times I ask a parent if they understand each part of it, and then I break it down so they understand what the goal is saying, how it's measured, mm-hmm. how it's going, how we're going to know if the goal is met. When we have the baseline, understanding what the baseline is, what it means, understanding mm-hmm. about the timeline, understanding about what is it we're expecting the student to do, by what time and what percentage, and all these different things. And so I find a lot of parents don't understand that because it may have not been explained to them before. Yep. So I always want to make sure the parents are very aware of what the IEP is saying, mm-hmm. so that they understand how to read it and how to understand it, how to interpret it, so that it makes sense to them. And also I have the student there, so the student understands what's in there so they can advocate for themselves. So.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you said that. It jarred another thought in my mind when I was helping lead the IEP meetings. So you need to make sure, parents, if you have not received a copy of the meeting before, you do not have to go. You could be like, they're not prepared. I need to be notified of this. You have legal rights, regardless of what state you're in. They need to have their I's dotted, T's crossed, because you have legal rights before, because you can say, I don't agree with these goals. I want to change this. It's your right, like Mr. Hamer, Ms. Cole George mentioned earlier, Abiola. It's your child's education, so you have the right to change it, to alter it. Just because a teacher is supposed to be an expert, right? It's your child. You live with them day in, day out. So please keep that in mind. That is a legal right. You are supposed to be given an invitation to the meeting with all the legal documents prior, not after. So if they're not on time, that's on them. So advocate for yourself, advocate for your child about all of that paperwork as well. Don't sign anything unless you are sure and agree with it, right? Okay. So the next portion is going to be for some select individuals. So parents, guardians, and educators. What have been experiences, here we go with the T, good or bad, working, and again, don't mention school names or any teachers, hopefully, or a lack of consistency? Because I think Jacquelyn and I have talked about this, right? you can make all the plans in the world, IEP 504, have goals in your classroom with students, but if it's not consistent at home and at school, they're going to falter, right? It's not going to be something they can keep up, right? We have to set them up for success as well. So we're going to go to Jackie. Jackie, what have been experiences, good or bad, that you have had with either working with parents and the school in your role as a paraprofessional in life skills, where it worked and it didn't? Maybe give 2 examples, one of each.
Okay, first, I didn't know the difference between the IEP and the 504. Now that I know, I was put into a role I knew nothing about.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there for like 3 years. And then I started catching on. I was a 101 with a young lady. She started out in, I think she was in the 4th grade when she came. And she was cerebral palsy. And she was in life skills. She didn't know anything. So I got this from a movie I was seeing, like one of the teachers was saying about the mandible. I knew that to put my hands on my face and make her put her hand on her face. Now that's one thing I know that I did right. Only word she could say was no. So I started teaching her yes, we. And I said, and she could hear, but she was nonverbal. She started saying those words. So she couldn't hold a pencil in her hand because of her disability. So I would put the pencil in her hand. I would put my hand over hers, and I would do her name. Every day we would write her first name on the paper. Every day she come in, she picked that pencil up, and she knew that I was going to help her write her name. She could write the number 1, like the number 11, little short things like that. She couldn't do the curvatures of the numbers. So we had a mirror in the room, and her nose would always run. We went to the mirror, and I showed her how to wipe her nose. I blow my nose. I said, blow your nose. Steps like that. And the more that I did with her, the better, she became. Before COVID hit, the last year that I was at that school, she had went totally backwards. And I couldn't understand what was going on with her. And when I would talk to her mother, which wasn't her mother, she had a judgment to take care of this child. So when I would tell the ones who was over that she is not her mother, they didn't believe me, and it all came out. So they had to restructure her IEP, to fit her needs. And then they had a speech pathologist to come in there. But what they had, it was a machine that they had like my picture on there. And the certain words that she knew how to say that I had taught her, they had that on there. They had numbers. It was just like a waste. I had a board that one of the ladies gave me, and it had like clothespins on it. So when I put the number 1, 2, 3, or whatever up on it, I said point to 2. She could point to 2, point to 3. Like I said, that last year I was there, she went backwards.
What do you feel is the biggest reason why she regressed, even though she was making so much progress in your care in the life skills room, in your honest opinion?
It was an inconsistency of her mother. But she would come there, she would just come in there. She was very argumentative. She said, well, she does this with me at home, and she does this and she does that. And they never would let me come to the meetings, And I said, no, I said, she does this with me. I said, there's no way she do this with her mom and uncle. She's not doing it here at the school.
The school administrators would not let you come to the meeting, even though you were her primary life skills.
I was one-on-one with her. So when that started, we had like the other children that was in there. And when I take them into the classroom, they could write, take notes. They could write, but they couldn't get it all down. And I think that was wrong because they wasn't ready to go into the gen ed class. Like if it was an art class, something like that. Yeah, because they, get a chance to, do their own paintings or whatever. And I would help them with that. But I just wondered today what happened with that little girl that I used to work with. I don't know. It's the parents, but she will always come in there and say, always fussy about things that was being done. She wanted this, she wanted that. And I come to find out, I said, I don't regret nothing that I worked with that little girl, any other kids in there. And I was the only one to help this kid. He was left-handed. And you know how they write on a slant? I correct that for him. And every day, his writing would get better and better. He'd show it to me. See, Ms. Williams is better. I said, yeah. I don't know what happened to those kids after COVID came in. I would like to see them and see what is going on with them.
I hate that, but I love how you and other instructors are saying, right, that you really care. You really wish you could get to see your students again and have that investment with them.
Right. Like I said, I come in there blind, just like the IEP. Now I'm back in the middle school again. And like one of the ladies was talking about the MTSS. I seen that on the board in there. Now I know what that means. So I'm going to question this teacher. Well, what does this mean? But I ain't going to let her know that I already know what it is. Because, you know what? They have, I think that's what that MTSS is, because once they know that I understand I'm mostly in the math classes. And once they see that I understand and I explain to somebody else, they'll come over there to me and ask me questions. So now I understand, like you said, like the parents don't want them to have that. I think that someone probably do need it. It's not like a hinder, it's to help them. So next time we have a staff meeting, I'm gonna start asking questions, because I couldn't get nowhere with the last school I was with. So I know my time is up, so I'm gonna let somebody else speak.
You're fine. I just love that everyone is concerned with advocating again for the learners, even if everyone might not have their best interest in mind or might not know, right? I don't feel like anyone would just, hopefully not put the child in detriment. But if they don't know how to advocate, if they don't know, and as you said, like you were put in a role, I remember, not putting again school names out there, but you were just always thrown in, whether it was push in, pull out, whether it was life skills. And so that is a sad reality. And even more so right now with COVID, right? Teachers are being put in classrooms where they are not saying that you're not expertise, you were, but you were not trained for the role that you became an expert at. And so, like bus drivers right now, lunch ladies, people are having to take over classrooms because teachers are contracting COVID, right? And so just thinking about that and thinking about people who might not know how to accommodate 504 students work, or who might not know that, oh yeah, this student at 12:15 goes with the interventionist, and the child, if they're not wanting to go, or if they're not, verbal, perhaps, as you mentioned, they would not be able to do that. So it's just so unfortunate. Okay. Let's go to a parent. So I'm going to go, I will let them volunteer. So Mr. Hamer or Miss Cole George, which one of you would like to speak to this the most, about either your positive or negative experience working together for the benefit of the exceptional learner, and inconsistencies or consistencies, and how it helped your exceptional learner? Who would like to go?
I think it's Mr. Hamer alone on here. I think she got dropped.
She left. Okay. Well, Mr. Hamer, you are going to be on the spotlight then. Thank you. 5 minutes on the clock. What has been positive or negative experience with consistencies in schools, or inconsistencies?
At schools in general?
Just with
she's still here, but she can't hear, but that's okay. Go, Mr. Hamer.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to pause. So what have been your good or bad experiences working with the school system with your exceptional learner? And again, you don't have to say the name of the school or teachers or anything like that, and it could be positive or negative.
Oh no, it's been all good. It's been very positive. Whenever I feel like that there's a need for my son, I go and I address me and my wife will address the need, and that need gets taken care of. Whenever there is something that they feel that is a need for my child, they just don't go and do it without our consent. They consent with us first. It's been again enjoyable experience, and my whole thing was that there was a promise made when that he will receive a high quality education, and that promise has been met and exceeded tenfold. I can't complain. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have any other complaints. It was one teacher who noticed that my son learns faster on the iPad. And lo and behold, he's upstairs on our computer, probably hacking the system to try to get in to say a couple of words. So, like I said, my expectations going into the school, now y'all laughing, I'm pretty sure. But my expectations going into this was I just want to get him out of school with some life skills so he won't be dependent on me and my wife or anybody else. We can live independently. But what I'm seeing now is, like this little guy can go to college and start a business. He is so charismatic. He is so just loving, conniving, and just a little boy all at the same time. One minute, I'm dead serious. 1 minute, I want to hug him, and the next minute I want to, punch him. But and not to advocate any violence, but what I'm saying, he's a typical boy, and I was not, and I wasn't ready for that. I was, well, my wife and I was ready to coddle him and just protect him and keep him away from all the bad things in life. But no, he's like, let me go, let me fly, and I can give his education and the resources that is at his school and the teachers and administration at the school. I can give them the credit for that, and what goes on at home goes on at school. We raise him, like I said, like he's like a typical child, and in school he is being educated like he's a typical child. He just has an IEP. So very, very, once again, blessed and very, just overjoyed. And I have no bad experience. My only bad experience come from when I speak to other parents and they want to, they ask me how hard it is and the trials and tribulations of having a child who has autism and all that and this and that. No, it's how you make it. It's how you make it. My son has sensory issues, and guess what? When we go to basketball games, we just give him, some noise canceling earphones. My son, he really, he loses attention real quick. So guess what? When we go to a wrestling event, he has his tablet. That is the only change. We have to make changes and we have to plan, but it really gets under my skin when people tell me, either A, how hard I have it, or B, what I should do. How should I care for my own kid? Because traditionally, this is how, children with disabilities or children, with autism, this is how they was treated. And I'm like, I call everybody yes on that because, like I said, when it's all said and done, and and my child is a grown man, probably 6'6" or something like that, when he walks outside of the doors of his house, outside the doors of his college, he's going to be a black man. And that is something that I want to get him prepared for. I want to get him prepared for life outside school, being a black man. And again, school has helped us with that.
Well, thank you so much.
I'm done. I have no more words.
I knew you were cutting it off smoothly. So that is a great transition. Again, continuing to talk about consistency with your students, with your exceptional learners as they grow. Because again, the goal is to make them be a successful, independent human, right? Adult that they will one day be, even if you're, hard to let go of that grasp. I had some students, right? They were not living with their parents. They were living with a guardian, right? An aunt. She was one of the most amazing students I ever helped with the IEP, but her consistency was so strong, so much so that when I left, when some others, teachers transitioned, she was like, I'm going to homeschool my child. And now I know my rights, my legal rights that I've advocated for, that other people have taught me, that I've learned on my own, right? But same thing as what Jacquelyn mentioned earlier, I had same, right, complete opposite experience where you could have a plan, you could have a goal in place at school, but then if the parents were not following through, oftentimes also getting vitriolic in IEP meetings, right? They don't want to either admit that their students need either assistance, whether it's
Right.
a low level accommodation 504 or a much more individualized IEP plan. And it's like a stigma, just like mental health right now in America. Everyone tried to act like it was going to be better during COVID, but ultimately people still stigmatize exceptional learners, mental health. And sometimes they don't understand that you're hurting your child's ability to eventually be an independent, successful adult if you're not advocating for them, if you're not allowing them to gain some skills on their own and be consistent at home or school. Okay, so I want everyone at the end to be able to speak to this last question about trajectory. Since we transitioned so well with Mr. Hamer's words there, what do you think, if you had a last word of advice for any of our listeners, could be or should be the trajectory or plan for exceptional learners' lifelong success? So we're going to take 1 minute for everybody. So think of your most amazing advice that you would give to parents, to exceptional learners. What should be, looking forward in our world, the trajectory or plan for exceptional learners' lifelong success, not just when they're in our care, not just when they're in our home or our classrooms. All right, who are we going to put on the spot first, or who would like to volunteer?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I know by me being in life skills, it was just like with my son. I would tell a parent, it's more than just doing schoolwork. You have to take those kids out, into the population. Let people look at them. If they give them a funny look, hey, let them. You just have to sit down and explain to them, that they don't understand. But I had seen this one lady when I was in the store. Her child was a life skill. She would let him bag the grocery.
Mm-hmm.
She would take him to different places. When the older son would have a school game, she would ask him could he come back there and learn how to count the change back.
Mm-hmm.
They took him in and let him do it. I said, it just not only with the school, you got to do a lot of things on your own. Take them to the Lowe's builder classes. I went there. I took my son there on Saturday mornings, and I was in there and I got to enjoying those kids so much. I took over that man. I took over the class, teaching those kids how to hammer nails and glue. And he didn't mind at all, because I guess he said, hey, that's less work I have to be bothered with, because it seemed like he didn't want to be bothered with the kids. So I did,
All
So
right.
I'm just saying, it's just not only at the school, it's beyond school with the parents, and you got to, some of the things you can do on your own at home.
All right. Next up is Abiola. What is your trajectory advice for exceptional learners' lifelong success?
I'm going to speak from the point of view of the children that I work with. The trajectory for them is that they be successful at whatever they set out to do. Because most of my kids, like Mr. Hamer said, I have one of his son, I got one of Miss Karen's. And I can see the growth. A lot of times the classroom teachers, because they're looking so much at the academics, they're not seeing the growth. But I can see it when they're with me, because they're working more on their goals than they are most, even though it's academically based. But I usually send home a lot of the things, so it crosses over into the home life. So everything that I do at school with them, I would make little packages as well, like with monies, with blocks, manipulatives, everything. So everything, my trajectory is that my kids be successful no matter what they set out to do, because I know they can. And I always tell them that all the time, even though I put in little jokes in there as well. So they go home and sing little songs to their parents as well that they shouldn't be. But yeah.
All right. Thank you. Now we're going to Miss M3. What is your advice for the trajectory plan for exceptional learners' lifelong success?
I agree with the first speaker. I'm sorry, I forgot her name. She has beautiful silver hair. The whole globe is our classroom. And I tell my students that all the time. Don't just take what's in the textbook and accept only the education that's handed to you. If it's something in there, because not every book holds all the information of all the subjects, look more. look out into the world, see what's there, and learn for yourself. And that's the same that I would give advice to the parents. Just make sure that, the students are not shoved into a classroom with 30 other kids not getting the intervention they need. That would be a terrible experience for not only students and teachers, but also as you're, hey, how was your day? And they're like, oh yeah, I know how to socialize, but they're not really learning anything in that kind of situation.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to First Lady Tammy. What would be your advice for the trajectory plan for exceptional learners' lifelong success?
I would say, and I base this on just the students I work with and the meetings that I've had, is that help and encourage the students to advocate for themselves. A lot of them don't know what their accommodations are. A lot of them don't even understand what an accommodation is and how it can help them. And so a lot of them do not know that they can ask for help, and they don't know how to ask for help. So I would say that's the biggest thing that can help them to be successful, is encouraging them to advocate for themselves, not just in the classroom, but even when they're outside of the classroom. Because I feel like doing that is going to definitely help them to be have much success. So I'd say that'd be my advice, is encourage that as much as possible.
Thank you. All right, so we are going to go to Queen. Queen, what would be your advice for the trajectory or plan for exceptional learners' lifelong success in society?
Know your rights, don't give up, and utilize the system and the organizations that are out there to help you. I advocated a lot for my client with kids on the autism spectrum. I got them tested, and the parents supported the parents in getting IEPs and really holding the teachers accountable that said that they were doing certain things to really do it, because they weren't. So know your rights, get the support. There's a lot of free legal advice out there, and to get your kids to help them to succeed. That's it.
Thank you so much, Queen. I just want to highlight a quote from one of our commenters in the chat. It says, from SO Hopeful, let the exceptional learners lead and gain experience applying the knowledge they have learned. I love that. Okay, we are going to put Mr. Hamer on the spotlight now with the same question. What would you give advice to possibly other parents of exceptional learners for the trajectory and plan for lifelong success?
I have to go back to a quote that one of my good friends before he passed. He always said, if you really want to hear God laugh, let him know what you have planned. And I think that can go hand in hand with exceptional learners. If you have exceptional learner, if you're trying to, keep them away from what may happen in this cruel world, you may be more harmed than doing more good. It's just like the quote just said, let the exceptional learner, make out his own path, knowledge that he has gained over his years and over the life lessons he had learned at home. So, just advocate for him and teach him how to advocate for himself. And when he goes out in that world, what I'm saying, just know that, he's taking his best foot forward because he knows which foot to take, instead of you telling him, hey, go right, go left.
I love that. Thank you so much. Okay. Let's see. I do not want to leave anyone. Oh, Miss Karen George. Oh, she keeps getting removed from the stream. Okay. So Miss Karen Cole George, I want to spotlight you. What do you think as a parent of an exceptional learner should be the trajectory or plan for exceptional learners' lifelong success?
I'm sorry, I cannot hear you all,
Oh,
but
no.
I can see. So I'm thinking that maybe you're addressing me,
Yes.
and I won't be able to hear your feedback, but just very briefly, I just think for the future trajectory that we should embrace looking at exceptional learners holistically, making sure that they feel supported, not just academically, but throughout their entire life course. We need to ensure that we're setting them up for success, and that includes showing them how to advocate for themselves as well. So I think just a holistic approach as to how we can be more supportive, as well as a team environment to help them be successful throughout life would be very helpful.
Thank you so much. And I love that she just, said that she couldn't hear us, but it was beautiful. She read it. And that is exactly what we're talking about, right? If you have something that you are not able to, as an exceptional learner, handle in that moment, that doesn't mean you cannot do it. She literally read the screen. It flowed perfectly, right? She got to the same ending as all of us did. She just, had some captions on the screen that helped her to do it if she was not able to hear it. That's the same exact way it can work with an exceptional learner. So that was a perfect segue to that. The quote that I'm going to say to end us on, again, right now, I am a college instructor of English working towards PhD in public history. So I really care about the whole world holistically, right? And showing preservation of history, preservation of everyone's voices, not just some people's voices. And so a quote that I want to leave us on for our discussion tonight about exceptional learners is, there comes a moment when you realize that what you're advocating for is more than just accommodations. You are really advocating for someone's quality of life. So that is the moment you realize you won't give up. So that is a quote by Kelly Sandman Hurley. Thank you so much tonight for hearing from all of these lovely guardians, us educators, discussing advocating for exceptional learners. And then I just love that some of y'all gave advice about them advocating for themselves, right? They are going to lead our world. They need to be able to be whole, independent, loved human beings when they get older and they're not in our care anymore. So again, thank you all so much for coming tonight. I love it. I love having gotten to learn from you all. Hopefully people who tuned in did as well. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. This has been the 4th episode of the Social Hour and some change tonight. Thank y'all.
For Cali families, if your school district doesn't allow for certain accommodations, and a private school or a different location where they do provide it, you can advocate for your district to cover those services for your child. They don't have to go without them.
Exactly. Same for Tennessee. Same for any literal state in the United States. You can advocate for yourself. If educators, administrators, schools are dropping the ball, hopefully now you've learned some tools tonight to help advocate for yourself and for your exceptional learners to eventually advocate for themselves. All right.
Before we go, Jessica,
And make sure you go to the local regional centers to get them tested for the autistic spectrum.
Thank you so much.
That's very important.
Yes.
One more thing before we go, Jessica. I know we're running over. So for parents, just make sure when you go to these IEP meetings, and Jessica did mention, make sure there's a 48-hour gap where you have to have an IEP so that you can review that IEP and make a consensus about what's in there for your child. Do not show up to an IEP meeting reading that IEP and not have any questions. Too often they get into these meetings and you knew your child before anybody else. Let's understand that and let's be clear about that right now. Yep. You have got an IEP in front of you that somebody wrote for your child off of a psychologist report, and you literally come into an IEP meeting and say everything is good. Then when the services that are rendered to your child, you say it's not good. We can always come back and do an addendum, but why at the then time of the original meeting you had nothing to say? Do not come into, and this is coming, I don't know if I'm coming from a parent perspective at this point, or I'm coming from a special education perspective. Do not come to an IEP meeting with no questions. That does not look good because you're literally giving total autonomy of your child's life over to somebody else.
Yep.
Like that is important, and that's what I really want to get out there. Please come with something. I don't care what it is.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone again. You can see we have so
I'm
many.
passionate about this. I can do this all night.
I love it. All right, here we go. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank
Thank
you
you,
on the
guys.
social hour.
We gotta do this one again, Jessica.
Yes,
Thank you, Hamer. Yes.
Thanks,
No
everybody.
problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you, Miss Jacquelyn. Thank you,
You're
everyone.
welcome.
Thank you so much, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
DJ.